The 9 Years Podcast.
Alright everybody, welcome to episode 88 of the 9 Years Podcast with Nick Draper, and normally at this point I would say Stuart Deakins as well. Unfortunately, Stu cannot join me this week because of a freak shaving accident. And if you think that sounds ridiculous and something I've made up, no, you clearly don't know Stu that very well. It is true. It's damn true. Stu has unfortunately somehow managed to cut his lip open whilst shaving, rendering him unable to speak, which does mean that it was his fiance's birthday wish come true, because he is unable to spout his usual nonsense. But do not worry, I've got someone that makes even less sense than Stu to replace him for parts of the show this week. That is my brother Chris. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. With that introduction, where can I go from here? Well, it's nice to be here, I suppose.
It is, of course it is. You're on the world famous 9 Years Podcast, the most popular and most listened to AFC Wimbledon podcast.
I believe it's the number one ranked Wimbledon podcast as well. I'd just like to put that in there.
Okay, we'll have to investigate that because we don't know that. Unless you're talking about Wimbledon Football Club.
Clearly.
There's probably a tennis podcast that has hundreds of thousands of downloads.
Yeah, but that doesn't count. Wrong size balls.
Enough of your personal problems. Episode 88, of course, well, the number 88, Chris, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
When we think of the word 88, we do think of the
Two
year
fat ladies.
1988. Well, you'd do that a lot. 1988 was the year of an incredible cup final at Wembley. A small side beat one of the game's giants by a single goal, thanks in part to a wonderful penalty save. Yes, of course, 1988 was the year that Luton won the League Cup final, beating Arsenal 3-2 at the National Stadium.
I hate you so much.
You knew that was coming, though, didn't you?
Yeah, obviously. You could have truncated that more, but obviously you didn't.
No, I went for the whole build-up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
That's what she said.
It's going to be like this a lot today.
I know.
Thankfully, Chris isn't joining us for the whole show. Paul Raymond will be joining me for a chat about the Bradford game in the not-too-distant future. But first, we've got top 7 lists to get through, so I'm going to get mine out of the way first, Chris, because we're going to play a little game with yours. So mine, I've gone for, as I knew you were coming on the show, and I know you're a big fan of Sky Sports News presenters.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I could name at least one.
Which is going to be what, Kirsty Gallagher?
Quite probably.
Hayley McQueen. I think you like Hayley McQueen. I might be wrong. Anyway, so I thought I'd go for
You know who I like?
I don't
This is
know.
weird.
I'm just guessing.
Okay,
I'm going for
moving on.
my top 7 Sky Sports News presenters.
Go for it.
On my list here that I've typed, it actually says Sky Sports new presenters, but actually this is Sky Sports News. These people are not necessarily new.
I was going to say that might really narrow it down.
So who do you think could be my number 1?
No, you do the list. I'm not playing that game because I only know about 2 of them.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Well, so my favourite Sky Sports News presenters are, in no particular order. Bear in mind there's loads, Chris, by the way, that are no longer with us, of course.
Well, they're dead?
No, like Millie Cloud has been around for a long time, I don't think.
I can say that's a terrible list.
I know. So anyway, top 7.
Yeah.
It is Tom White, Julian Waters, Adam Leventhal, David Garrido, Rob Wootton, Pete Graves, and finally Mike Wedderburn.
Yeah. Cool list, bro.
What's your top 7? Well, I'm going to say I already know what your top 7 is. So Chris is going for your top 7 British comedies of all time, yes?
Yeah, yes,
Sitcoms.
I am, yeah. British comedy. Well,
when you said that you were going to do this, there's one I've forgotten. I thought I'd write a list of 7 which I think are going to be your top 7. So I'm going to tick off how many I've managed to guess correctly, but there's one I've just remembered.
Yeah, British and Irish, shall we say.
Oh,
British
okay.
and
Well,
Irish.
there you
go. Give it away, isn't it?
I'm going to be well short, unfortunately, then. Okay. Well, I'm going to replace one then. I'm going to put 2 on my reserve list for ones it could be.
So you're trying to cheat, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah, I just remembered one almost straight away completely forgot what it was again.
Was it when I said Irish?
No, it wasn't. I already know what that one is.
Oh, okay.
I know what that one is.
Right.
Okay, I've forgotten what the other one was. But yes. Okay, I'm writing down these two. Right, do you want to read your list then? Let's see how many of these I managed to guess.
That was the best minute of a podcast I've heard in my life. So, in an order, number 7, The In-Betweeners.
Oh, I was going to put that. I took it out. Damn. Okay.
Too late. Number 6, Extras.
Damn. I was going to have... okay.
You're rubbish. Number 5, Mrs. Brown's Boys, which you must have had.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
You liar. Number 4, A Touch of Cloth.
Oh, my word. Right, okay, I would never have got that.
Number 3, The League of Gentlemen.
Oh, my word. I've done terribly.
God, I'd love to see what your 7 is. Number 2, The Office.
Right.
And number 1, you must have got this, and if you don't, I disown you as my brother, Red Dwarf.
Well, of course I've got that one, yes.
Yes. So
that's
go on
the
then.
only one I got.
What was on your 7?
I cannot believe the ones you've not listed.
Well, obviously because they weren't in my top 7.
Adding the last 2 that I just put on, so I've got 9 in total. So I had Red Dwarf at the top of the list, obviously.
Yes, yeah.
Then I had Blackadder.
Yeah.
Towers.
Okay. You've gone proper 80s, yeah?
Monty Python.
Oh, and before, yeah.
Bottom,
okay.
The IT Crowd.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Alan Partridge.
Yeah, I was going to put Partridge in there, but I knew you'd probably guess him, so...
Oh, that wasn't... Okay, right.
Father
Ted.
Father Ted, yeah.
And then finally, I thought you might have put the Partial in as well.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, they are my 7, so I'm sticking with them.
If you look at that list between the two of us, though, what an incredible list of British comedies. We do comedy very, very well, don't we?
We certainly do. You only have to watch our performances over the last 10 matches to know that one.
Oh!
Hey, this is Thompson, keyboardist for these fine gentlemen. And even across the pond, we're rocking along to the 9 Years podcast.
All right, I've been joined by Paul Raymond to discuss the Bradford game. Another defeat at Valley Parade. If my memory serves correctly, the last time we went there was the famous, was it 6-1?
Sounds about right, yeah.
In the season, and obviously many of us with longer memories will remember another 3-0 defeat at Valley Parade in the year 2000. On that day,
yes.
We were victim to a very dodgy penalty decision by referee Jeff Winter for a handball against Ben Thatcher. Same penalty area, same end of the stadium.
Same spot.
Same spot, yeah, pretty much.
It literally was, and I was probably sitting in pretty much the same view that I had on that day as well.
So well, it was a sense of deja vu 17 years on.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
It was a very, very soft penalty, wasn't it?
Yeah. The thing that was so frustrating about it was in the first minute of the game, there was a elbow on Lyle Taylor, which the ref gave us the free kick, but didn't even book the player. So if it's a free kick in the first minute of the game, he must have seen that something happened. So that sort of opens a question. In the build-up to the penalty as well, there looked like there was another foul. I know this sounds like really sort of weak excuses, but it was just, it didn't look like a penalty. We were right, sort of in line with it, and it just really didn't look any reason. No one in the ground, not even the players on the Bradford side, seemed to appeal for it. And I think they were in a little bit of sort of, what's he given that for?
Yeah.
But
it's interesting you say weak excuses there, but in reality, I think apparently, obviously I'm not being there, on the balance of play over the 90 minutes, Bradford were the better side from the feedback I've received.
No arguments.
However, before the penalty, was there much? Had they threatened much? And sometimes a decision in a penalty award like that can totally alter the way the game's going to go. Might have found that it would have played out to a goalless draw.
To be honest, I thought we were playing fairly okay. Sort of not any clear-cut chances, but we weren't just sitting back and letting them run at us. They were playing a very sort of pushing forwards, but we looked well in control. So yeah, when the penalty came about, it was a little bit of a blow, to put it on several ways. So yeah,
It's
that's football.
Yeah, you say we're in
That's the
control. Is
football
that
we
to do
love.
with? Is that to do with the formation we were playing? We were playing a very odd formation. I couldn't quite work it out from the starting line. It looked like a 3-5-2,
exactly.
but reports are that we only had one up front.
Yeah, no, I think it's safe to say that we did go one up front, but then there's other people sort of saying 6 across the middle, and it's like, how do you play 6 across the middle? They'd literally be standing on each other. There's talk of, was it the diamond? Sort of, and just a few people sort of backing up, but it was probably more of a sort of 4-5-1 type thing. I'm not brilliant on formations. So,
whichever way you look at it, essentially Lars Taylor was the only forward, wasn't he, on the pitch?
Yeah,
and that's not his real strength, is it? Playing a lone man up front. So, although we were, like you say, in the game and sort of controlling it and clearly not seemingly in any danger, as an attacking force, we didn't have a shot, did we, in the first half? And was that, again, is that our stumbling block at the moment, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's been a case recently. What we've tried to do is try and let teams, almost come at us a bit, and then as the game goes on, if it gets to like the final 20 minutes, we'll give it a go at trying to nick a goal. But obviously, once you go 1-0 down with that formation, and Bradford, to be fair to Bradford, they really needed the points because it's very tight in the playoff zone. So, and their wonderful stadium as it is, they announced before the game that for next year they've already sold 18,200 season tickets.
Wow!
But when the adult price is £199, and they potentially could be playing Championship football for that. Our tickets on the day were £25 or 20 in advance. So if that's what their match day price is, and you're going to go to half the games a season, you're better off getting a season ticket.
Yeah.
So the crowd, when they got the penalty, were really behind them. Although, to be fair, our support up there, which just like we looked around, we thought this looks a bit mad. I personally thought that we'd take 200-300, and it was just under 470, I think. So
we had Swindon the other week where we took something like 800 or over 800, which is an incredible turnout from my perspective.
Yeah.
And then another strong following to Bradford. I know it's the last away game, so we traditionally would take a few more. But even so, as somebody pointed out on Twitter today, we have, looking ahead to next week, what is now essentially a meaningless game with a team that is not scoring goals at all against a team that have also got nothing to play for, and we've sold out. So really, we're just looking more and more, and I'm sure, obviously we know this already, and we'll probably talk more about this at another time. But you talk about Bradford having 18,000 fans there at reduced rates. You just think when we get that stadium, the potential that we have is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Because they're guaranteeing that revenue even before the season starting. And then obviously their merchandise sales and program sales and your add-ons and stuff. People think, yeah, okay, my season ticket price was reasonable, very reasonable.
It's very reasonable, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't mind spending, a couple of quid extra at the club each week.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. So, but anyway, by the by for the time being. Going back to the game for a second.
Do we have to?
Well, unfortunately we do. I wanted to touch on the
football.
Yeah, the second goal.
We talk wrestling?
I'd love to talk wrestling all the podcast, but we've been asked not to do that. So, unfortunately, we'll have to save the talk, although we will mention good luck to Alexa Bliss for Sunday for her WWE Raw Women's Championship match with Bayley. But anyway...
I've done a lot less away games this year. And I realised that in the league games that I can think of that I've done Millwall away, Swindon away, Sheffield United away, and Bradford away. I was also at Sutton away.
So we can apportion our lack of goals to
I think it's... Well, I would like to claim Wigan away in the Cup and Curzon Ashton.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but, for league, I was looking earlier, we've scored 18 away league goals this season. Okay, I haven't been at, as many games as usually away, but I've not seen a score away league goal this season.
Which is mad. Which is crazy. But again, like you say there, some people said, like, we're having a discussion about whether or not the players have given up or anything like that. I think the games that I've seen towards the run-in, which have just been the home games, but there's no lack of effort, do you know what I mean, from us, or concentration.
No.
If you actually look at the way the players are trying to press, trying to close down, keeping their shape, going in for tackles or anything like that, there's no slacking there.
No.
It does seem to be a combination of, for me, like you say, a little bit lack of quality, certainly a lack of confidence, and tiredness. I think has played a massive factor. Like we say, for a small squad that have been playing their maximum all season, which we pretty much have been. We've had to have been that way because otherwise we wouldn't have survived in this league. It was a hell of an effort to make sure we retained our League One status.
But the reverse of that is that if you look going back just a week ago, I was absolutely astounded by Swindon's performance. They must have known that we weren't on a good run. We were lacking confidence, and for a team that needed to win, they just didn't seem bothered. Which I'm pleased we've, never been in that sort of situation where the team, when we really needed results, and including the game 6 weeks ago,
Rochdale.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. It's sort of the players. We've got some good players, but actually Bradford had some very good players, and I think at times we perhaps don't give the opposition as much credit as perhaps they deserve. It's very easy just to look at us and go, "Oh well, we weren't good." But occasionally, are the opposition just better than us?
Yeah, I think we have to accept that a lot more in League One. I think, to be honest with you, we had to accept that in League Two for large spells as well. I think there is a list of man of the match candidates for the Bradford game, of which 2 players seem to have season tickets in the voting. We talk about quality. I don't think anyone's going to argue with the quality of Lyle Taylor and Jake Reeves, who are perennially in the candidates for man of the match, just really consistent, and no one's ever going to accuse either of these 2 players of not putting in their shift at all. Not one again, though. Again, they don't seem to ever win the man of the match polls, but they are always in the voting. The winner this week was actually Will Nightingale with 45% of the vote. Lars Taylor got 10%, Jake Reeves 21%, and Andy Barcham was the other candidate with 24%. Was Will playing as a third centre half, or was he playing as a sort of right back? What was his position at Bradford?
Just trying to think. No, I think he was playing as one of the centre halves. But it's quite bizarre that. Well, sorry, not bizarre, but sort of a lot of people go, "We lost 3-0. How can we have a centre back as man of the match?" Well, and then we've also put Lyle in there as well. How can we put a striker when we haven't scored and got heavily beat? But it's about more of the stuff that they do. As usual, Lyle was all over the pitch. So, yeah, totally agree with him being in there. We did have a little bit of a discussion about who to choose. And it was suggested Darius, but Darius went off after 45 minutes. So, although he did well, it's just like, should a man of match, I always find it bizarre, unless a player comes on with 10 minutes to go and gets a hat-trick, it's a bit difficult to say they were the best player in the match because of all the other stuff that goes on.
No, I totally agree.
There were some really good, there were good performances out there, not outstanding, not sort of what we needed, but there was one pass, I think, from Danny Ballman to Jake Reeves, I think it was, and I don't know if it might have been, it was at the other end, it might have been flagged offside, but it was such a really good pass, and when people sort of say, why is, Danny still out there, why not some youngsters, he can still do it. And if this is his last couple of games, good luck to him.
And hopefully we can get a goal from him to side him off. We don't want him to be... He has scored for us in the past, to be fair, but that would just be nice as a nice sort of send-off for him. I think we are expecting that he will probably not be in the first team squad next season, but we wait to see.
What, sort of like we get a last-minute penalty and he snatches the ball out of someone's hand?
Yeah, possibly.
No, that was last year.
And then skies it over in the stand at Gander Green. Oh, no, that was a few years ago. But also, we do have to, just to finish off, to go back, only a couple of 300 reports this week, but below the top league at Tier 2 footy went for towels on sunbeds. Just, again, that's highlighting an attitude that many fans have of the way we are finishing this season with, 7 of our last 8 without a goal? Something like 5 games without a goal now, so... It's understandable. Tommy Walker at Womble. Tom went for Jeff Winter returns, which was certainly my feeling, bringing back loads of memories from that horrendous game, which I think the anniversary of which is this Sunday.
Oh,
April
good.
the 30th, so yes.
Yes, of course it is. Yeah, no, in fact, I put on my Facebook status update on the way back. It's not the first time I've been to Bradford towards the end of the season, seen us lose 3-0 to a soft penalty and a below par performance from the ref, but that's football for you. Welcome to 2000 all over again. Was there an election in 2000?
No, I don't think there was, but I am positive, God willing, nothing happens to me over the coming years, but I don't think I'm ever going to forget that game, or certainly that run of games as well, if you think what went before and went after.
Yeah.
I know we had the Sheffield Wednesday home game, which was horrendous. The Villa home game where we thought we're going to be all right.
Just one other thing to point out as well, that obviously, although Bradford are getting into the playoffs, so it's not their last game of the season, the last home league game of the season, they always commemorate the Bradford Fire because it usually falls out of the season because it's 13th of May, 13th or 11th of May, something like that. And so obviously there was a minute's silence before the game, and even before the game actually started, it was commented that a number of Wimbledon fans went round to the memorial to pay their respects. And during the minute silence, it was just really well observed by everyone. And, last game of the season, a few people have enjoyed their train journey up. And I'm thinking, are they all just going to walk in and sort of start singing, not realising, but actually total silence. And there were a number of comments on Twitter and stuff like that of Bradford fans thanking our support for how we observed it, and it's football family, isn't it? No one should have to remember that each year. It should just not happen in the first place. And although a number of the stadiums we go to now, people go, "Oh, it's a lot better," when it was terracing or the stands weren't all identical. Part of the reason that we don't have wooden stands anymore is because of what happened to Bradford, and it's there for our safety.
Nice way to bring it all to a close. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all those Wimbledon fans. We think we should say, again, been a credit to our club. And thank you very much, Paul, for joining us on the show this week.
No problem at all, Nick.
All right, sadly, this is the point where I had to bring Chris back into proceedings.
Oh, I told you, it's a delight to be here. I always feel so welcome.
Shut up, I was talking. Right, so we are going to be talking about Leyton Orient and Kingsmeadow, as well as our picks for Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year. But before we do that, this is the time of the show where normally Stu would... Well, actually, he beat me last week, I think, but normally he'd fail.
He did.
Completely.
I listened to that. That was hilarious.
At Two-Way Tango. So now it's your turn.
Right.
What should we go for?
Well, you better choose.
Should we do something completely random this week? Because the football season's over for us, really, isn't it? And we were talking earlier about, I don't know, British comedies, weren't we? Should we do British comedy characters?
Okay.
That's so random. We're going to fail horrendously.
We're going to fail terribly, aren't we?
Should we give it a go anyway and see how far we get?
Yes.
Do you want to go first?
Oh, go on then.
Okay. All right. Let's try it.
Gotta listen out for this guy. Instead of famous name, but don't fly. Something like Sebastian Coe. Celebrity 2-word tango.
Mr. Bean.
Father Dougal.
Bernard Black.
David Brent.
Dave Lister.
Kaylee from Cowshare.
David Brent.
I've won. I've already said him.
Have you?
Yeah. That's my second one.
Oh my God, I am not paying attention.
Clearly.
Oh dear Lord. Okay, yeah, no, you win again. I just thought I just wanted to keep Stu's end up, if you pardon the expression.
And on that bombshell.
Hi, Stu.
I'm sure that will cheer him up with his dodgy lip.
Why do you shave a lip?
Why do you shave a lip? Because it's hairy.
Why do you shave? Well, that's smart, aren't
yeah, that was a miserable go to a tango.
I'm so sorry, listeners. That was shocking. But
clearly,
at least you don't have to listen to that damn music for too long this week.
Clearly, obviously, as well, there's a bit of a delay on the line. So
there was a bit, yeah. It did sound like I was listening to it in some sort of wind tunnel, but we'll let that one go.
Enough about your wind tunnel, right? So let's talk about this week's main topics. We won't spend too long on each of these. We're going to breeze through these. We have, first of all, we were going to look at our Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year awards. Now, the Young Player of the Year award, I don't remember seeing a list as short as this in history of AFC Wimbledon, to be honest with you. There's only about 5 players on the list.
Well, for the benefit of the listeners, who were the 5?
For the benefit of the listeners, and obviously yourself, because you've not done your research.
You gave me a half an hour and I was on a train. Deal with it.
That's not true. You've had loads of time. But anyway.
Right, an hour.
Well, in reality, I've got to be honest, there's really only one candidate. Realistically.
Yeah. I think we all know what it's going to be.
We do, but the thing is, the actual list, when it was first published, came before debuts for Joe McDonnell and Toby Sibbick. So I'm assuming that they are candidates as well, but I don't know. We need some clarification on this. But the 5 original listed were Jayden Anthony, Alfie Egan, Will Nightingale, George Oakley, and Seth Owens. And realistically, I can only see it being Will Nightingale purely because for minutes on the pitch, more than anything else.
Well, funnily enough, I was going to go for Alfie, but yes, well, obviously, yeah, if you were to go on who's been on the most and who's come on the most in the season, then I guess, yes, Will. I just think with Alfie's contribution to the youth team over the season as well, when you throw that in too, I think perhaps Alfie's a strong candidate there.
This is the blurred line, isn't it, really? Because I suppose technically it is the first team award, so it's a bit of a shame.
Is it though? I mean, I don't know, because I seem to remember back in the day, Jason Ewell winning it. He'd only come on, I think his first game was Liverpool, the last but 3 home games at Selhurst one year, and he won Young Player of the Year.
It does say here, time of the year again, we ask you to vote for players from the first team squad.
Oh, does it? Okay.
But then I suppose technically you're right. Alfie has been in the first team squad all season. He had a squad number all season. But does that mean we're only chiefly looking at what he's accomplished for the first team? But then realistically, what has he done elsewhere? We don't really know. He's been on the bench a lot, really, hasn't he?
Very true. Which has been a shame. I know it's a bit of a chagrin for some of the supporters that he hasn't had the chances that he might have had. But I have got a theory about that, but we'll come on to that later.
Well, do you want to do it now? Because realistically, I was just going to say, it's such a shame that list is so small, where in years previously, it's been a ginormous list, it seems. So
I think the only time, really, this was the first season in League One, if we'd have put, having beaten Bletchley FC and achieved safety, so as early as we did, really, if we think about it, if we'd have then thrown in the kids and done half a team of kids, half a team of professionals, and then got beaten week in, week out to the end of the season, which is a possibility, you never know, what would that have done to the kids' confidence? That's my point. Having gradually brought them in as we have done, will that in the long term make it better for them? Joe McDonnell must take, I mean, I know he didn't have a bad game really, but he had 3 foot passes on the weekend. but he's had 2 clean sheets otherwise. That could do massively good for his confidence, but only because of the experienced back 4 in front of him.
It's a fair point.
That's just my feeling on the matter. I think if we'd have lumped everyone in a one hit, as with the temptation was, and obviously people were calling for, if then it'd have been 2, 3 or 4-0 every week defeats, or maybe we might have scored a goal, but a bit of rare as hen's teeth at the minute. Would their confidence have nosedived?
Is it a catch-22 though when we come into next season, when we're going to have what we believe a smaller squad, which will have to be supplemented again by the young players? Do we not really need to get them some more first-team experience because we need to hit the ground running next season? Because I think, as we're all aware, it's going to be a tough going.
Yeah, but if you're now going to start, say, we could argue pre-season started about 2 months ago, but if we say take pre-season as being 3 weeks after the season ends, we obviously haven't got the post-season playoffs like this year, like we did last time. We've got all that time to build them up and get them integrated into the first team and make them fixtures and say, look, this is what you're doing, up your game and get on with it. We've got a bit more time with them to say, you're going to be playing a major part this season, rather than being bit part players. You're now it. Maybe it's better. I don't know. I'm not being a coach.
No,
but that would be my feeling on it.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on what we do in the summer, like I was speaking to Paul Raymond about, and who we bring in and what changes we make to the squad. I think it's pretty much a certainty that we'll be seeing Will Nightingale play a much larger role this season, and that's probably reflected in the extra games that he's had this season and the fact that he is my vote for Young Player of the Year.
Definitely. He's been outstanding when he's come in. He's done really well. He had a bit of a confidence knock, and I forget the game.
Would it have been the Bristol... No, not Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the Bristol Rovers one.
Yes, no, it wasn't.
Wasn't it? Well, I think he did have a bad one that day. Well, I say bad one. Nobody had a really good one. But I think he did notice invisibly his head dropped a little bit.
Or was it Southend?
Well, I seem to remember Bristol Rovers only because there's a colleague at work I have who's a Bristol Rovers fan, gave me untold crap for it. So it seems to stand out, as you would do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he'll be a main fixture next season. Maybe replacing, pick a name out the air. I think maybe Paul Robinson might take a step back. Darius will stay there, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've been through them all already, but I think he might be the Robinson replacement, ready-made Robinson replacement. That's a lot of ours.
Yes, it is.
Anyway,
moving on.
Yes.
Player of the Year.
Player of the Year, it really only comes down to Tom Elliott, doesn't it? Let's be honest. But you're going to say, no, it's someone else.
Well, why did you say Tom Elliott?
I think because, I know recently he's not been in the side through injury and illness, but when he was in, his link-up play as well as his goals were outstanding. Lyle's become more of a team player, and I get that, but it has taken away his goals to a degree. I know he's had a few, but with Tom Elliott's goal scoring and also his general link-up play, for me, I think he probably would make player of the season.
Lyle obviously not as prolific as he was last season, but he's still our top scorer this season.
He is. He's gone more out the wing, hasn't he? Let's be honest. He's you see him more out making the runs, and perhaps maybe that is why I haven't noticed that he is the top. But I still think Tom's overall game, because there was what game was I at? I think it was Coventry away, and he was both ends of the pitch. He was defending as well as attacking, and it was just a joy to see that sort of play at both ends of the pitch by a centre forward. He was a target man, but to see him back on the line defending and then getting straight up the other end, it was nice to see a box-to-box striker, which I can't believe is something that even exists, but it appears to be what he was doing.
I think we've seen, to be fair to him, Lyle do that over the last, for a good part of the season as well. I think getting up and down, and it is a hallmark of our team really this season. We're talking about Paul Raymond and sort of the lack of effort that's been levelled at our players. To say, I'm not sure it's a conscious thing. I don't think actually it's been so much a total lack of effort. I think we were discussing tiredness playing a part, coming into the final race, having to play the maximum all season, which we've had to do to ensure we stay up. So you still see the effort that Lyle's putting in. Tom Elliott, absolutely, I agree with you, all season long. But my player of the year is probably the one that puts in more bigger shift than anyone, and that'll be Jake Reeves, who the argument would be, I guess, you're looking at Tom Elliott, okay, not our top scorer, but still his goals were very, very important to us, especially in the first half of the season. I think if he'd have kept up his form that he had in the first half of the season into the second half of the season, then he would certainly be my pick. And your argument against Jake Reeves will be a centre midfielder that's only scored 1 goal this season and only one goal the season before.
I wouldn't say that. I don't think as a centre midfielder you only have to look at someone like Andy Roberts, who admittedly did weigh in with a few, but he would, he wasn't going to pull up any trees. But Reeves, for me, sometimes overthinks it, I think. And that's what would count against him. He overthinks sometimes his play in the middle. That's just me. This is my opinion. And every now and then you start thinking, just pass the damn ball.
I get that. I get that frustration from a lot of people that sometimes he does tend to try and overplay it and try and play a more difficult pass or a more eye-catching pass when a simple one would do.
Don't get me wrong. I think he'll be awesome. I think he is awesome. But I think so when he does stuff well, he does it really well. But when he does it badly, it normally ends up with everybody piling back to defend again. That's my problem.
True, but I also think when we get the ball down and we start moving the ball around, things go through him. And he is going to open up an opportunity or play a pass like we said.
I'm probably being harsh on him with percentage-wise. He probably does do more going through and forward than he does losing it and going back.
I also think he is, and I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying this, by a long stretch, has the highest amount of appearances for us this season. In fact, is he ever present in the league? I don't think he's missed a game all season.
Now you're asking.
I'm pretty sure I'm correct in saying that.
Let me see if I can find my list of greatness.
I think to have been that, and still being, like we said, every week, I was just saying this to Paul Raymond, every week he is a candidate for our man of the match poll. Every week he's putting in a shift, getting up and down the entire pitch. And for our only ever present, which I'm now 100% confident I am right in saying that, I mean, when is he ever going to stop running? You know what I mean?
No, at one point we'll find him somewhere near Strawberry Hill. He'll just have kept going forever.
Exactly. So, anyway, I would say that.
Yes, it's a good shout. I couldn't argue against. Well, obviously I have argued against it, but they've both got their pluses and minuses. I'm still going to stick with my Tom Elliott pick.
Is there anyone else apart from Jake, Tom, and Lyle that could potentially be in the running? And I've got to be honest, I'm not sure there is. I think one player that is vitally important to us, and we were unlucky with an injury that has occurred to him, is Darius.
I was just about to say Darius. I think he's been solid every game he's been in.
Yeah,
I've not seen him make
He doesn't make mistakes.
No. And to be honest, his goal against Oxford is still worldy. It doesn't matter. It was a bit of a hit and hope. My goodness, that man can hit a football.
Yes, I think he would definitely be a potential candidate had he played maybe a few more games, maybe.
Definitely
10 or so more games.
Yeah.
Other than those four, I suppose.
I wish Dom Polion had played in the second half of the season like he'd done in the first half, because he'd definitely be up there.
Yeah.
He tailed right off. It's such a shame. His runs were reminiscent of Leonardson back in the 90s. That was who he reminded me of. Amazing, just bombing runs up left and right, and it's such a shame that I don't know what happened. I don't know whether he had a knock to his confidence. He had a couple of crap games, and he's a confidence player or whatever it is. It's an absolute bugger that he's not as good as he was.
No, absolutely. And the only other player I was going to mention that perhaps I would like to see more of, that perhaps would have been a candidate had we seen more of, was Dean Parrott.
Yeah, Dean Parrott, another good one. Yeah,
not a chance in hell of, or even in the running really for Player of the Year, but somebody I think 20 odd games this season. Which I can't believe we've not seen more of him, to be honest, because he's clearly got quality. But anyway, that's perhaps another debate for another day. Who would you go for most improved player of the season?
Oh, most improved player. Now there's a question. That's a thinker. Did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mentioned it last week actually.
Because I'm still thinking. Sean Kelly
for me. Last week we talked about him and his improvements. I think if you're looking for a player that's really come on, I think he would be the one. I always felt when he first joined for us that he was a player that would do a job for us and be solid without being spectacular, but I think he's really, really come on this last month, 6 weeks or so. So I think I don't think there's actually any real candidate other than him for that role, really.
Yeah, I think there was somebody, I forget who it was, said quite recently, although I think he was talking about centre-backs, but either way, when a player's that good that you don't notice he's doing what he's doing, he just gets on with it, doesn't make a show of it, doesn't make any cock-ups, yeah, I can't argue with that. I think that's a good shout.
Now, here's the question.
No.
I know your vote is for Tom Elliott.
Yeah.
And my vote is for Jake Reeves. But who do you think is going to get it? Who do you think are going to... And also for the young player as well, Will Nightingale. I'm going to say Will Nightingale is a certainty.
I think he probably will get, based on playing time, yeah. If it's just those 5, you've got to cut 3 off already. It's between 2, and yeah, probably will.
What about Player of the Year? Because I think, as we said...
I've got a feeling Lyle's going to take it again.
Interesting. I still think Tom will get it.
Do you reckon?
Based on the amount of people that have said to me now that that's where their vote's going.
You don't know everyone, though. Come on.
I don't know everyone. This is true.
If we based on that, we wouldn't have Brexit, we wouldn't have Trump.
This is also very true.
Political.
Yes. But I think I still just fancy being a centre-forward that was so good in that first half of the season. I think we're looking at him getting it. But there we go. Probably won't see him again this season. Somebody else we won't see at Kingsmeadow again this season or ever is the entire squad of Kingstonian.
Yes.
Possibly the worst segue ever.
It wasn't bad. I'll give you a 7 out of 10 maybe.
Kind.
It was fairly good, Link. Yeah.
So kind. Yes, Kingstonian played their last game at Kingsmeadow on the weekend. So whilst we were up losing at Bradford, I actually took the last-minute decision, managed to raise myself off my sickbed to get to Kingsmeadow, and they drew 0-0 with Havington Waterlooville for the uninitiated, or the people that didn't know. They are now going to share at Leatherhead's ground next season at Fetcham Grove, which in itself is a very strange situation because I believe Leatherhead are looking to move out the following season themselves.
Yeah, there's some very strange
Chessington.
Deals going on there, I think.
Very odd. But the bottom line is Kingstonian are not going to be playing at Kingsmeadow. There's a possibility, I suggest, that when we actually leave Kingsmeadow, that I can't see a reason why they can't come back. However, anyway, we should preface this. The reason we're talking about this, not only because this happened on Saturday, but also because Tuesday, The Guardian ran an article, in-depth article about the situation at Kingsmeadow. And you look at objectively the main key points of the argument, which are Kingstonian played exclusively at the ground, we bought the ground, and X amount of years later, they can no longer play there. It doesn't, when you look at those facts, doesn't look particularly great for us. Well, the devil is in the detail, of course.
Of course, because when we first bought the ground, which prevented it being sold to a property developer, Cosler was very much going to sell that land to someone who wanted to buy flats in the shadow of Cambridge Gardens, but we won't mention that too much. There was no, it was basically, I can swear on this podcast, can't I? It was shit or bust. We either bought the ground from them or the ground would no longer have been there. And if it had happened at that time with Kingstonian, as they were at the time on the wane, they'd been in the conference for 3 seasons, and then 2 seasons later they were a couple of divisions below. They were down in the Rymans. Their attendances were 200, maybe 250 touching at best. If they'd have then been kicked out of the ground saying, yep, it's all going to be flats, they would have ceased to be. A lot of people argue the toss no and all this stuff, but I'm pretty certain that's what would have happened. So we, I don't want to paint us as martyrs, but we had a vested interest in that. So we put the share option out. We got the ground bought off the Coslers for the amount of money we paid with the help of Barclays. And they've basically played there for nothing. They talk about this peppercorn rent, which is a smaller fixed fee for a fixed, an unlimited term, whatever it is. They played there for nothing. They kept the bar receipts. They kept the gate receipts. We even, although admittedly in later years they had been paying us, but we fixed the pitch after they play. The amount of money that we saved them over that time that they have failed to reinvest speaks volumes. I don't think, it's almost like if we hadn't have protested in the lead up to AFC Wimbledon being formed, I could argue, yeah, you're right, they should have just buggered off and gone. In similar vein, if Kingstonian fans had clubbed together like we did in the 14 years since we bought the ground and got funds in place, they could have even played in their next season if they wanted to pay Chelsea the money, but they didn't. And apparently they never approached Chelsea in spite of what some of their fans claim. I think they would have been...
Very quickly, sorry to interrupt you, just to clear that point up. The understanding is that Kingstonian said that they approached us to speak to Chelsea on their behalf to see if they could remain playing at the game. However, my understanding is also that when that was put to us as to what response we got, there's mixed messages.
Gotcha.
Either we were told a flat no from Chelsea, or that conversation was never actually taking place whatsoever. So we're not entirely sure what the situation is there.
Yeah, it's Chinese whispers as usual and all this sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But I fail to see how they've had 13 years to prepare for the eventuality that we would find our own ground, or be able to purchase or move or whatever it was, because I honestly think they were sitting on their laurels thinking, I'll never get. They were doing a bit of a cobble. When it first came about, he was thinking, couple of years, no one will watch it. They'll all be watching Fulham or Chelsea, it's Crystal Palace, something like that. And nobody will care about AFC Wimbledon. And I honestly think the Kingstonian fans thought that. And as we started to gain momentum, they were still sitting there going, well, they'll never get to League One. And then it did. And now they really have been left in the lurch a bit because they haven't done anything about it. And all their fans are saying Wimbledon are the same as Bletchley, as the franchise. And I saw these stickers left around the ground, which irked me somewhat. They're saying we're the same as Milton Keynes Dons, basically. It drives me up the wall. How on earth is this the same? They are not moving 70 miles away. They're not just saying, come with us or go F yourself. And we are providing them with £1 million out of all the property deals we're doing and all the sort of various bursaries we're getting, etc., from this deal. We're handing them £1 million to pay for a new stadium. And where would you ever see that happening?
I don't know of any landlords that would give their tenants any money whatsoever to go and find themselves a new place. But
when my flat flooded, I wasn't expecting him to go, here's 10 grand, go and buy yourself a house.
Exactly.
It's not, it's just ridiculous.
It doesn't work like that. I think you're right in regards that they've had a lot of time, knowing full well that our expectation was never to stay at Kings Meadow. I think the problem what's happened is that, let's be honest, in all this time, I'm not saying this is right, this is just the way it's happened. In all that time that we've been sharing Kings Meadow, my thoughts were always we were going to move out, and then once we'd moved out, we were just going to hand Kings Meadow over to Kingstonian. What I did not foresee happening was us selling the stadium to help finance our own stadium in the meantime, and then whoever took over from us saying, sorry, there's no room for you. Now, it could still be that Kingstonian come back. It's still a possibility.
So it's it's something that could happen, yeah.
It could happen. There's no guarantee it could happen. So I think what's happened is that things progressed so quickly in regards to the sale of the stadium, from our point of view, that it caught Kingstonian fans or their board or whatever completely off guard. Now, that really is a failure on their part. I do have to say that. Yep. Because, as you say, they've had many, many years to
completely agree
to weigh up the possibilities. But can I say that I'm happy that Kingstonian are going to Leatherhead? No, I'm really not, and I am still uncomfortable about the situation. Now, I've gone to watch Kingstonian, a few times over the years. I wouldn't say I have a great love or fondness for the club, particularly. That might have to do with the obvious amount of Chelsea support that finds its way to Kings Meadow on a Saturday. However, it does feel me a little bit uncomfortable because Leatherhead, that is ridiculous. That is far too far.
Yeah, almost as daft as saying we're in 3 months we're playing in Milton Keynes.
Well, clearly, as we said, that's not the same situation.
No, but my argument to that, and I do get it, and no, it's not a great situation. It doesn't sit right with me either. But if you give anyone a head start in saying this is a temporary measure, this is not forever, and to do nothing in that period, and then throw your hands up and say, right, well, we're off then, which is what the directors have done, or what the director did, I believe, when the sale was all but agreed, which I think it was just crossing T's and dotting I's, he said, a move is a move, or I can't remember the phrase he used. Leaving is leaving, I think he said. He just threw his hands in the air and said, right, we're off then. So they obviously didn't do any groundwork. Literally, a good pun there.
Literally
didn't do any groundwork or whatsoever in the intervening years. If you'd have said to like our supporters in 1989, in 13 years' time, we're sodding off 70 miles away, we would have done something in 13 years. And we didn't even give them a time frame, but they did nothing. I'm not saying it's their fault, because I think the blame lies firmly with Kosler, actually.
There's a big question mark over Kosler and the money that he originally
huge. We buggered off with it. He did. I believe the phrase is he did a hammam.
Yes, he ran off with the money from the ground. Of course, he did. The other thing is, Kingstonian, didn't they have a vote very recently with regards what to do with the ownership of their football club, and they decided to stick with the one owner directorship model as opposed to a fan cooperative. He
even gave them the choice. He said, "If you're not happy with what I'm doing, here's your chance."
It wasn't taken because
no.
And again, I understand the difficulties there because, of course, it's finances at the end of the day, and they're probably thinking, where the hell are we going to get finances from? And I know they have their sponsors, but I'm talking Ryman League level here. So,
absolutely.
I mean, the whys and wherefores. I must say, a little while ago now, actually, I contacted Kingstonian fans and asked if they'd like to come onto the podcast and talk about the situation, but as yet have had no response. So I would want to put that on record.
Well, I could put you in touch with someone who's actually a very unbiased view.
It's a bit late now, isn't it? Blimey.
Well, I didn't know you were looking for someone.
Anyway,
Man.
We might
psychic abilities.
We might well do that in the future, but it is going to be sad to see Kingstonian having to play so far away in front of what will clearly be dwindling attendances.
I did hear, though, however, the director is also the director of a coach firm. Am I right in thinking? Apparently, he's going to be laying on free coaches.
Yes, but
does that sound in any way familiar?
It does sound familiar, and I would just say realistically, that sounds great, except for on a Tuesday night away game, where people find it difficult enough to get to Kings Meadow anyway because it's such a difficult ground to get to, really.
I think it was just for home games, that one.
Yeah, but
so, at Leatherhead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course it is. But my point still stands. Trying to drive to Leatherhead from Kings Meadow of an evening, not great.
Leatherhead's not so bad. It's not. Listen, again, I know it's not the same situation, but it's not. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. But we wait to see what happens. We do wish them well, except for
absolutely.
Some of the fans, of course, there were, I should say, on Saturday for the draw with Havant, a number of "We Hate Wombles" chants and stand up and sit down if you hate Wombles and things like that. I do think, fair enough, get them out of the system, but that was from a minority of the 1,200 crowd, of which about 1,000 would have been Kingstonian, or therefore Kingstonian, I would hasten to guess. Fireworks was shared. We had a guy with a megaphone, which was very irritating. They tried to storm the John Green stand, which I found a little bit hilarious. There was a mention in the article, the Guardian article, about how we made that into a all-seater stand and then denied Kingstonian fans access to it. That's not the truth of the matter. We had to rebuild that stand to make it Football League standard. We all are aware of this. We need the next amount of seats, which we had to do. We did that with that stand because we had the room to do it. And unfortunately, the cost of stewarding and opening that stand for Kings Meadow for Kingstonian matches was not an option.
It would have been completely counterproductive.
Yes, so that's why they cannot use that stand, unfortunately, for their home games. So it's nothing to do with us denying them entry. It's, hey, look, if they wanted to have that stand, they could have paid for the costs of doing it. But, of course, this is where I get a little bit bitchy. They've not really done much for that stadium since we took it over.
Listen, it's not bitchiness. It is just plain fact. It's difficult because it's a local team that is going to suffer as a result of our success, let's be honest, if we boil it down to the bottom line. But at the same time, you know, we've given them so much time to do, and they've done very little with it. And I'm not saying tough shit on you, obviously, and we're not saying that either as a club, because we're giving them the money to try and find a new ground or even build one. I mean, that's £1 million, the most of which is ring fenced for a new ground. It's not like this money's going to get frittered away like a Bichetti, which is another good segue. The chance was there, the opportunity was there, and they've peed out the wall, really, in my opinion. So I do have sympathy for them, but that is tainted by you could have done so much more.
On that note, should we talk about Leyton Orient very quickly? We'll be very, very quick because we are running late.
But sounding great.
Yes, I knew you were going to do that. There we go. You can tell we've...
Radio 1 Breakfast Radio has never been the same.
No, it hasn't. But I tried to keep it alive by stealing all their best features on this podcast. So
Pretty much every single one.
pretty much every single thing. And saying that, it's now time for car park catchphrase.
Hey!
No, Leyton Orient, very quickly, we shouldn't joke. We will take this
No.
very, very briefly. I only wanted to mention this because the situation is ridiculous. However, what is more ridiculous is the fact it's taken them to actually mathematically be relegated for anyone from the Football League or the FA to come out and actually say anything about the situation, including a basic admission that their fit and proper persons test is pointless.
I did have to laugh at Barry Hearn's comment because, not sure if the listeners are aware, but on Monday he resigned as their honorary president because they still haven't paid their staff since March. They're 24 days late already on their pay packet and they're still only getting dribs and drabs. Anyway, Barry Hearn's come down and I believe the comment he made was that the fit and proper person test doesn't include the phrase, is he mad or something like that? Is he mental?
I think it's not really a test. It's so bizarre.
It's just to make sure he's got cash. But he's got cash,
yeah.
but he's not spending it right. He's not giving them the cash.
It's a worthless test, if I call it a test.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And what's ridiculous is no one stepped in before now
Mm-hmm.
to actually come out and publicly say anything. So, I mean, what are we? We're around the time the Milton Keynes moved. That final season we had at Selhurst Park was also the famous ITV digital collapse and the horrendous financial problems that affected many, many Football League clubs. That was in 2001. Okay, it's now 2017, and yet we are still dealing with clubs having every season. There's a club that financially find themselves in some sort of meltdown, and we thought by now we'd have been over this. But you look at the list of clubs that have suffered. And we're still seeing it. So clearly, things are not working in some respect along the line. And it boils down for me to seem to be making sure that whoever owns our football clubs are doing it properly and with the right intentions. Because looking at who are we looking at now? Coventry?
Yeah, that's Coventry and their grand issues. Massive.
Yeah, their horrendous issues. And we're seeing all the problems we've had all season at Charlton.
Charlton, I was about to say.
Leyton Orient are another one. And you're looking at a lot of non-league clubs that have suffered massively and have just disappeared off the radar, really.
Yeah, there's quite a few that have gone down. Upcoming Torquay, I think, are suffering. I don't know. I'm not aware of what their last result was, but they were dangerously close to going back down to Conference South level.
They're going to be they need to win on the last day to stay up, I believe. But you're also looking at, we looked at Herefords that had major problems. Darlingtons before them have disappeared off the face of the earth, had to regroup and rebuild. And Chester, obviously, that went bust. And all these clubs that have suffered. So quite how we're still at the situation, I don't know. But we can't... It's going to be someone else next season. It's going to be someone else. Next season you'll see either in the Championship or in League 1 or League 2 a club down at the bottom of the league that have just imploded because of finances or for some other bizarre ownership reason. And enough is enough. But quite what you do to change it, I don't know, because you can make your voice heard, but it comes down to the powers that be, doesn't it?
Yeah, but then I also look at the other side of things. When Hearn sold it to this chap, Brachetti, or is it Brachetti? I might be saying that wrong. They were on the cusp of getting Championship football. I think they got to the playoff semis or playoff final. I think even that it might have even been. Something tells me about I believe a penalty shootout. They lost
shootout at Wembley. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And he sold it, and since that day, they've had 11 different managers in 3 years, which is borderline criminal. How can you get any sort of sustainability when you're getting 4 managers a season, basically?
No, you can't. But also, Barry Hearn, I don't know.
He has held his hands up. I'll be honest. I think the last thing he said before, I think he was on TalkSport last night, Tuesday night. He was in the thing and he held his hands up and said, "I sold that club to the wrong person." And I know probably some of the Leyton Orient fans, if there's any listening, I doubt it, but they were probably thinking it was too late for that, mate. But it does say something about the man that he's realised he made an absolute giant cock up. He kind of did, without nefarious reasons, we hope, something similar to what Hammam did with the Norwegians. He sold a club on a promise and it failed miserably.
I don't know what his finances are like or if there's an option for him to buy them back, but Again, another situation that we'll keep our eye on. I'm going to have to cut it off there, I'm afraid, because we do have to move on and finally get Polion Go out the way. So, now Stu is historically rubbish at this game.
Hysterically so.
He is rubbish. I mean, sorry, Stu, but you suck. Unfortunately, so do I, because I've lost my clues at the moment. So let me just have a.
Are you telling me, brother mine, that you don't have a clue?
Haha, very good.
Thank you very much.
No, I have 4 clues actually.
Ooh.
First one is the cryptic clue.
Oh God, go on then.
And the first one is Dominic Polion is travelling to this stadium. He is thinking by the name of it that he is heading to the land down under.
Brisbane Road.
Very good! First clue! Wow! First clue.
Thank you very much.
Stu, if you're listening, wow. See,
Wow.
Stu's always moaned that people come onto it and he says it's hard and it sounds, and he wants to know if people actually get this game at all, and you've just done it. You smashed it out of the park. Clue number 1.
Got well out there. Oh, as it's more commonly known, the Matchroom Stadium, of course.
Well, it is now called the Matchroom Stadium, of course, but I've gone for Brisbane Road because obviously that is the land down under in Australia. And
There we
they're
go.
also going down, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah.
The other clues, just if you're interested, which nobody will be, but the other clues, maybe somebody listens to this and they play it with someone else that doesn't listen to the podcast, so they want all the clues.
Yeah, and I've just completely ruined it for them. Go get into the first clue.
You got it in the first clue. But the other clues were, Dom thinks this is one of the easiest away days he's been to because it's very, very close to the tube station. And he's got on the tube at Oxford Circus. That was a little bit more complicated because I didn't want to say he got off at Leyton. That would have pretty much given it away.
Would.
So central line from Oxford Circus. And he says it's a very nice modern stadium, although the away end is the oldest of them all, which is very true.
Yep.
And then finally the anagram. Debonair Bras.
Debonair Bras.
Debonair
Amazing.
Bras.
I bet you're a bit gutted you weren't able to use that this week.
Well, I've said it at least. We still get that moment.
Bras.
Yeah, but you've got it off to the first clue.
I'm amazed.
Amazing.
I'm amazed.
Amazing. Well done.
Thanks. What do I win?
Nothing. The next time
Nothing
you see
at
Stu,
all.
you can just point and laugh and say, I got it off to the first clue, Stu.
Bragging rights over Mr. Deacons.
There you go.
Received.
Last thing, won't talk about the week. We're playing Oldham, no one cares.
Nope.
Let's have a look at fixtures. We were just talking about this actually before we started recording because a win for Port Vale on Tuesday night has opened up the relegation picture. And I think it's now down to
3.
1 from 3, which is Gillingham, Port Vale obviously, and Bury. Shrewsbury can still catch up on points, but the goal difference is far too large, surely, to be swung. So,
well, yeah. I mean, it would take a 6-0 win and a 4-0 defeat, or vice versa. It's unlikely.
It's very unlikely. Who is your pick? They've all got difficult away games. Gillingham are at Northampton, Port Vale are at Fleetwood. That's true. And Bury are at Southend. Now, what makes this interesting is that Southend need a win to try and sneak into the playoffs. If Southend actually get a draw and Millwall lose away at Bristol Rovers, then Southend will get in the playoffs. So,
yes.
And looking at it, Rochdale could still make it if they beat Bradford City and Millwall failed to win and Southend failed to win. So,
I think what we're saying here is that all the excitement will be at completely different grounds on Sunday.
yeah, it certainly won't be at Kings Meadow, I'll tell you that much.
No, we'll be playing some old ham.
Okay, so who do you think is going to go down?
Who do I think is going to go down? I think looking from the 3, because I'm discounting Shrewsbury, I don't see them. I don't see Oxford putting 6 past them, or the other way around. I think Bury are in trouble. I think Southend are going to be desperate for the win. I think Port Vale could snatch the result they need at Fleetwood. I think from those 2, I'm going to go with Bury.
I'm going to go with Port Vale because Fleetwood, if they win and Bolton lose, then Fleetwood go up automatically still.
I did not know that combination was correct.
Yes, that's the argument is Bolton are at home to Peterborough, so you expect Bolton to win. But Fleetwood,
I think Port Vale's win against Walsall on Tuesday was Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday. Was so massive that maybe they'll be riding that positivity thing, much like we went into a game against Fleetwood once on a wave of positivity and won and stayed up.
Yes.
Could history be repeating, but in reverse and in a different ground?
Possibly,
knows?
if history repeats itself that way. But, well, that is where all the excitement will be. So if you are not at the game at Kingsmeadow on Sunday, then
you are missing nothing.
You're actually missing nothing.
Apart from a Tyrone Barnett hat-trick.
I'm actually going to put money on Tyrone Barnett.
Set up by George Frankham.
Tyrone Barnett will score on Saturday, I guarantee you that.
Akinfenwa was not there to give him the penalty in the 77th minute, so I don't know whether that's going to... Ooh, what a bitch.
On that note, we should probably wrap things up for this week's show.
Okay.
We didn't actually get round to it. I'm just going to tell you now. I expect Bolton will go up automatically and Port Vale will go down, and I think Millwall are going to get that final playoff place. So realistically, as it is now, is how it will finish. But who knows? Okay.
Who knows? You decide. Oh, wait, hang on.
No, we don't. It's not how it works.
That's Big Brother.
Yes. Oh dear. Right, podcast overboard. Let's move on. Let's wrap it up. Got off for far too long. Too much nonsense now.
Season really is over, isn't it?
See what happens, Stu, when you're not here? Well, actually, someone wins podium. That's what happens.
Yeah, see what happens, Stu. I might have been crap at two-word tango, but my God, did I smash Boliongo.
You did indeed smash Boliongo.
Undefeated.
Well, updates from the game against Oldham will be available on all our usual social media channels at 9YRS Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, maybe Facebook as well. We'll see, so check those out if you don't already follow us on those. Thank you very much, Chris, for joining me this week.
Cheers. Nice to have been here, despite your... Yeah,
it's been fun.
Usual.
Yeah, all the usual nonsense. Thank you very much, Paul Raymond, for joining us for chatting about the Bradford game. And as I mentioned to Paul, and I'll mention again now, good luck to Alexa Bliss for her Raw Women's Championship match on Sunday against Bailey. As much as I love Bailey, of course I have to support Alexa Bliss. And otherwise, please join us next week. I'm going to ignore you. I'm just going to talk over you.
It's not real.
No, I'm just going to talk over you.
It's not real!
No, stop speaking. No, tell you what, try and say what you're going to say, but I'm just going to talk over you.
Not real!
No, I'm not going to say anything. Please join us next week. We're going to be joined by the Manchester City manager, Pep Guardiola, who is going to help us define the word overrated. Wrestling is actually real, I'm not imagining it. We'll see you next week.
It's not real! Bring on the partridge. Kiss my face.